Comprehensive Guide to Fafnir. Finally, we have a Fafnir game now that people stopped playing Chiron and my internet is behaving. Now, looking at the screen, of course, the very first thing, there's very specifically two things that I want to keep in mind with this enemy team comp as Fafnir. And something I'll mention on my team that I noticed, but I noticed this at God Selection. Now, the first thing is Scylla's Crush reduces magic protections, or acts as if it reduces magic protections by 25%. The wording tends to fluctuate a little bit on that. But functionally, you have 25% less magic protections as long as you're standing in that circle that Scylla emits. So, I'm aware of the fact that I will need a little bit more magic protections than I normally would. Secondarily, Surtur's first ability actually deals magic damage, something that not a whole lot of people are aware of. So with these two combined, I'm going to want to emphasize magic protections slightly more than I normally would. Okay? Now, another thing to note here is that Freya, Ravan, and Zeus all have good auto-attacks. Ravan's auto-attacks help build up his passive shield. Freya, of course, is an auto-attacking mage. Zeus's auto-attacks actually do increased damage if the enemy has charges on them, so even if he's building ability-based, increasing his attack speed will still be a really good thing. Now, there is one thing I forgot to mention in the previous episode. Fafnir's Coerce ability, the one that increases attack speed and deals damage based on a percentage of damage that the ally deals, I forgot to mention that that also affects ability damage. Most of the time, this really isn't that big of a deal because most abilities hit once, maybe twice, but there are a couple of gods, Bastet is one of them with her constant ability usage and her bleed, that actually does get a lot of benefit out of Coerce. Another great example would be Anubis. Really, if you're going to hope for great results with an ability-based god and you coerce them, you want their abilities to hit multiple times. Kukulkan's Tornado is another great example. Tiamat is another excellent example as well. So just so you know, that does also increase ability... Well, it does proc off of abilities, but abilities, again, don't hit as hard, typically, or as often, I should say. Let me rephrase that. So, let's go on ahead and skip to... yeah, this is fine. We're grabbing this. Now, one thing I am thinking about right at this point in time is, as you'll see here, in the early game, before she can build up any kind of cooldowns or really increase her abilities, actually level her abilities, Freya's damage is not great, and furthermore, it is only ranged in bursts, so her consistent ranged damage output is not going to be as good as Izanami's. So I'm going to be looking to apply some early pressure. This is why I jump forward here. I want to apply that early pressure now, because I know that if I don't, not only do they have Izanami, who has one of the best clears in the game without using any mana, but we also have, of course, that Freya early game, which is a bit tough to deal with. So I want to apply that pressure early, and you'll see me consistently try to keep this pressure pretty high, specifically on the Izanami, because of course pressuring the Izanami gets the Kumbhakarna's attention, right? I'm just waiting for my cooldowns. Zeus getting ahead in the mid lane, which is good. Keep that pressure on her. Now, you may wonder why I didn't activate my relic there. This is because at this particular point, I didn't think that that was going to be a great opportunity to actually use that. I am expecting Bastet to come in pretty soon because Zeus did kill Scylla early, so that's going to free up Bastet. And as you can see, she is on her way over. She's going to hang out there a little bit. I grab Coerce. I try to see if we can lure him out. So I back up, Freya backs up, Bastet works on that, and Pele comes in, which is really interesting. So I call a gank, we come in here and we start slapping people around. And this is where I activate that. I actually activated that a little too early. It would have been really nice if I'd waited till Freya was in there. That's on me. We almost get Izanami, but now we can focus on the Pele. Now, Pele does not have any kind of escape here. You'll notice I actually activated not only by my relic, but also my Horn of Plenty, or whatever that's called. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but I reduced my cooldowns that way for that reason. And you can see that that paid off by the Pele dying, which is going to put Bastet really far ahead. Well, I won't say really far ahead, that's an exaggeration, but it is going to put Bastet ahead. Alright, and also you can see where the Kumbhakarna seems to be out of potions because he's not healing that life back that quickly. Or if he has potions, he's only got a mid potion, actually. It looks like he's got a multi-potion. I don't know why I called it a mid potion. Go ahead and do some poke there, keep that pressure on. We whiff that. That was just bad timing on the two of us. I don't think I would have been able to down him anyways. So it doesn't really make a huge difference. He does have to back, so that's almost as good. So, you know, at this particular point, we're nice and ahead. I'm pretty happy with that, because this means that even with Freya's somewhat bursty nature and the problem of her inconsistent damage, this is going to put her in a good position for when I do leave lane, that she'll be able to better fend for herself against the more consistent Izanami. So I'm pretty happy right now. This is great progress in this lane. I'm just trying to build up some cash here. I want to go back and get the purple buff, which I ping for her, just to make sure she knows what I'm thinking about. Communication is very important. Now, I jump in here not only to start it early, but also to make sure I can throw my hammer and damage the camp beforehand, because I don't want to accidentally finish off any of these minions, because that would take away from her golden experience. So I jump in and throw my hammer before she starts wailing on them, so that way I don't accidentally risk stealing any of those kills, right? So now I have my ult, and I'm hoping that we have an opportunity to do some really great damage, get Kumbhakarna and Izanami down a little bit, right? That's what I'm kind of hoping for. Freya gets too close to Kumbha and her attack is interrupted. That's fine. I want to grab this buff here again, because that's going to be another great source of golden experience. Keep her ahead of Izanami as much as possible. Again, I want her to be as up as possible for when she is left alone with Izanami, because that's not going to go well if she's not strong enough. Let her take the shield. And I'm hoping to get something out of this Izanami here. She disappears, which, you know, is fine. And then, you know, at this point, I'm just trying to... I'm looking to stay for just this one last wave, because that'll give me enough gold to get the Mantle of whatever. I can't remember. The illusion, the Mantle of Illusions, I think. So this is where I leave, and I tell her I'm leaving. Alright, she's not as high as I would have liked. I would have liked to have her at 2 levels higher, but 1 level higher isn't bad. Alright, so I get my Prophetic Cloak of Illusion. What am I smoking? So I'm going to be heading to middle, which is going to be a really good transition, because again, Zeus does work extremely well with Fafnir. Chain Lightning works really well with Coerce. I've already mentioned his auto attacks. His ult works really well with Coerce, so Zeus is actually a great mid lane pick if your support is Fafnir, just so you know. Rejoin up. It's very unfortunate that Izanami kills Freya. That's not actually a skill thing, that's just Izanami's more consistent damage. All she has to do is outlast the burst, and she basically wins. That's the case with most hunters. Unfortunately, Zeus gets caught out here. I shrug off solo ult. Now, I'm ulting here pretty specifically because I would like to get something out of this. I wind up going on... When I miss this stun, I wind up just going for the Bastion. Just back off from Kumbha here, because I don't want to take too much damage at this particular moment from Scylla. Again, her crush can be very dangerous. Obviously, at this particular point, she's level 8. She doesn't have it rank 5, so it's not going to have the protection reduction right now, but it will when it hits rank 5, which will be pretty soon. I think she gets that 9 or 10. It depends on the individual and how many points they put into their ult. She obviously has her ult, of course, but, you know, I'm just looking to take this Bastion here before Zeus gets here. I don't want to kill the wave too much, right? And Kumbhakarna makes a valiant effort at this. So kind of does Scylla, but I somehow sneak around him and get it. I see Bastet in middle. I don't know where Pele is, which concerns me slightly. But I'm looking to get some poke here. I completely whiff my stun, which is fine. I was just looking to poke, but Kumbha goes in, which is really interesting. So I have to retaliate. I coerce Zeus to get him increased damage. And I'm just trying to, at this point, kind of intercede here. Here's Bastet, but I already know that Scylla's just going to disappear with her, you know, teleport thing there. But a great combination of ults there to get Kumbhakarna down. Coerce Bastet to give her the increased attack speed. There he goes. Right? Absolutely fantastic. Everyone dodges Scylla's ult, so we have a great opportunity to take this last Bastion. So that's a kill for us. We get the Bastion. Bastet's heading over to right lane to deal with the Izanami, which she needs to. Freya is having a hard time. And again, that's just a matchup thing. This is just a common Freya issue. When she hits the mid game, this issue will self-resolve. By the way, this is where I noticed that Freya said Pele ult was also used over there, which means Pele is probably still in the right jungle, which is why I continue coming over instead of staying in mid. I just want to make sure that Pele doesn't show back up and clean up somebody else is primarily what I'm looking to do here. Now, we could have attacked this tower, probably done some good damage. I just coerce myself and attack it for the duration of the coerce. And then I'm going to come back here and stall out the wave slightly. Now, this is really interesting because some of the minions follow me, and then after I pass by this midway point where Pele kind of shows up, because I jump out here, you can see right there where the minions move back to mid, so I didn't actually take anything from Freya here, although the wave will push itself up right there. You can see that it cleared the front line pretty quick. And this is really, and she's actually going to use this to buy this time that I've bought her to get the shield there. You can see it right there, because she's not going to go up that far yet. Right? She also knows Pele is around here if she's paying attention to the minimap as well. So she's pretty safe at this particular point in time to push up that next wave. There's Pele, which means I was incorrect completely. I was seeing Scylla. Whoops. Anyways, so Pele is back over there, so I'm looking to rotate back over. Because at this particular point in time, it's really interesting, because this is what we're talking about. The Pele has been over here twice now, and you might be wondering why. Well, my guess is, and this is just a guess based upon my personal experiences jungling, but my guess is that Pele has given up on Surtur. She's just going to leave Surtur alone, let him try to farm. He's fallen behind Ravon, obviously, right? He's 2 levels down. Ravon has that health shield. Ravon is very difficult to gank as a result of that health shield, right? So she's probably given up completely on solo lane and is probably looking to bolster duo lane to try to prevent the Freya from getting hugely beefy in the late game, because that is very common for Freya to get really difficult to deal with in the late game if you let her. So a combination of those two factors, I believe, is why Pele is leaning on right lane so hard here. Which is good decision making on Pele. That is actually the correct decision here. Alright. She is 100% correct for doing so. No offense to the Surtur, but he's fallen behind, and Freya is a late game huge threat, so I can understand the focus in on the right lane. Now, the Freya is also doing a really good job because she is aware of that and respecting it, and she's taking that mid camp as often as she can, which is most of the time because the Izanami is simply not paying any attention to it. You know, in the meantime, I'm trying to keep Kumbhakarna over here so they can go about their business over there on right. You can see Bastet occasionally rotating over there. She rotated over there earlier, obviously. She's kind of hanging around the jungle here now. And because of Pele's early spill, Bastet does in fact have a nice 2-level lead on her. So that's really a great thing for us. This is going to put us in a really fantastic position here. And at this particular point in time, I'm pretty sure we can take this tower here. I have Coerce. We're doing a lot of damage. Coerce the Zeus increases attack speed. Go ahead and stun the Scylla just to make sure she doesn't interrupt. And we have the mid tower. A nice early mid tower, which is great news. Great experience in gold for the team. It's going to help Freya out a little bit. She's now 2 levels ahead. Part of that is experience from the tower. Part of that is all of that jungle farming she's been doing. Again, very smart decision by the Freya there. I'm on my way over because, again, I see Pele over there, and Bastet is kicking around back here, getting her speed, which is fine. But I want to make sure that Freya can, you know, get back on her feet here. We lose the tower here, unfortunately, which I'm sure is part of the reason why Bastet ganked this. But here goes Izanami. Now, I think Izanami is probably retreating back here, but it occurs to me right here that she might be going back to kill Bastet, and there she is. So we barely save her right here with, well, Zeus actually just throws his ult out and scares off the Izanami and then slaps her down. Freya wants to attack the Gold Fury. The Stygian Beacon is a little bit more important because that's a very quick grab, especially since we have the numbers advantage here. Here comes Kumbhakarna. Now, if Kumbhakarna had attacked us here, he would have delayed our Gold Fury take. I'm not sure he was thinking about that at the time, it would have been a bit more problematic. We actually wind up taking the Gold Fury because he did nothing to slow us down or stop us there at the Stygian Beacon. So it's an interesting decision, and it's not like he didn't know at least somebody was there because he could see it on the, he could see the symbol there. He just chose not to. He would have died, do not misunderstand me. He would not have survived stalling us at the Stygian Beacon, but he would have stalled us enough. You can see isn't Ami just returned to right lane right after we cleared the Gold Fury. If he'd stalled us at the Stygian Beacon, we probably would have at least had the risk of having it stolen. Maybe we still would have gotten it, maybe we wouldn't, but the risk would have been there. But he didn't stall us at the Stygian Beacon, so we really didn't have that much in the way of risk. Just an interesting little note there that's worth mentioning. So at this particular point in time, I'm pretty sure that Kumbhakarna is heading left because he kept hanging around in left jungle anyways, so I'm going to be on my way over. You can see where that's, I'm pretty sure that's Pele right there, but I'm pretty sure Kumbhakarna is on his way over. There's Scylla, right? There's Kumbhakarna. You can see him coming into the lane there, so I was correct here. So then I turn, I just go on in. I want to make sure that Ravon can either get out or do whatever he wants to do, whatever that happens to be. Usually it's getting out. He winds up attacking Scylla, which is fairly interesting. So in response, I ult. Now I only ulted because he expressed a really serious interest in attacking Scylla. So I'm just trying to get Scylla killed here. I enhance his attack with my relic there. Scylla gets out, and I think that she's totally, out, but she comes back, and you can see on the mini-map right here while Ravon and I are fighting, where she was kind of farting around over here trying to get away, and Zeus clearly gets her with some charges, because he kills her after she's under tower. So he gets some charges on her right at this particular point in time. I really want to take the tower or kill Kumbhakarna, but I hear Surtur blinking behind me, so I gotta get out, right? It's getting spooky out here. Try to save the Zeus. Here's Pele, which I'm not going to be able to do anything about because my cooldowns, right? I don't have any... Well, I have 10% cooldown reduction, but that's not enough. So at this point, I'm just trying to salvage something here because I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be able to save everyone. We get the Kumbhakarna, which is nice, and I'm too late to save Ravon. I try to take the Pele, but I miss both my abilities, unfortunately. So I wind up just dying. Zeus does pick her up, which is good, so it winds up being a 3 for 2, which isn't bad. Actually, excuse me, I forgot he killed Surtur right there. A 4 for 2. Totally forgot he killed Surtur at that point. So it's a really great trade. 4 for 2 is really good for us. I did mention right here that he should take the left tower. He should have cleared that wave and taken that left tower. Ravon does take it right afterwards, but it would have freed up Ravon. Now, normally I don't advocate for doing that, for taking solo's tower if you have that opportunity and you're not the solo lane. The reason why I wanted Zeus to do it here is 2 reasons very specifically. One, Ravon is already a level up on Surtur, so he's already winning the lane, he's already ahead. As a result, we want him out of that lane, helping us with team fights a little bit earlier, and if Zeus had taken that tower, we would have been able to do that. Ravon would have been free to leave that lane and go help us out in team fights earlier and forced Surtur out of the lane. Alright, that's why I wanted him to do that. Mostly because he was already ahead of Surtur, right? Zeus kills Izanami here because she went the wrong way, which is fine. Now I gotta save him from Kumbhakarna. Now my concern here wasn't actually the Kumbhakarna, and he leaves, so I am just kind of looking around. Kumbhakarna leaves because no one's on their way to help him. He was trying to create an opportunity, but Pele wasn't going to show up in time, or otherwise did not express interest in attacking Zeus in the jungle, so that's why Kumbhakarna disengaged there. That was, as soon as he disengaged, it was a fairly safe assumption no one was coming. Now I stay in left jungle here because I know Pele's kicking around in left jungle. I do want Ravon to take that tower at this point, but I am jumped by basically half the enemy team at this point. So I'm just trying to, back up a little bit here. Freya successfully takes right tower. I'm trying to take this left tower here. Ravon and I just dive in. Now, this was a risky decision based on the, considering Scylla was just attacking me in left jungle, that was a very risky decision, and it's very fortunate for Ravon and I that she had decided to back off beforehand. That was a very high-risk decision. It did pay off, but I want you to understand that in light of the fact that Scylla had just attacked me in left jungle, that was a ballsy move. Alright. So you have Pele in right jungle. I see Kumbhakarna coming in, so I warn them of that because clearly the enemy team is going to be looking for a fight here. Get mildly startled by Ravon, but Ravon's coming in to help out, and what we're really fighting for right now is the Gold Fury. So I go on ahead and I attack Surtur here. I'm trying to create a distraction. Zeus picks this up and thinks it's initiation. It wasn't intended to be, but I kind of turn it into that. And then he goes back for the Gold Fury. Now, they have Ravon there to tank the Gold Fury, so they don't need me. I am purely distracting. See, they take it really quick. No real issue here. I have Scylla right here. Now I need to get out of here because I have no particular reason to be here, but they grab Kumbhakarna, so there's a decent possibility here we get something out of this. So I attack a little bit more. Ravon goes in. Bastet uses her ult, grabs Scylla. Scylla clearly beats. You know, I'm trying to get down the Surtur. My only real concern at this point is Scylla, actually, because again, her crush is going to absolutely decimate me. I don't have a, I have a decent number of magic protections, but I'm looking to go back here at this point, and then have somebody else pinged the Pyromancer, but it's a great call at this point. We should really be looking to take that, right? So, pretty soon I'm going to be going up and grabbing that. Now, I want Blink very specifically because we're ahead by quite a decent bit here, and I want to capitalize on that with some high aggression, okay? So they're still fighting in mid. I think they're overstaying because at this particular point the enemy team is starting to come back pretty fresh. They do back off to take the staging beacon, which is good in here. This is just a really quick note here. Really interesting to see that Surtur really doesn't have a lot of protections here. It's not that bad. Actually, it's a fairly standardized build. It's just higher on the attack. He's got Soul Eater, then he's got Glad Shield, then he's got Erosion, which is fine. You can see Freya's starting to get her items online, which is great. Ravon has a pretty good build here. Zeus made the interesting decision of building Divine Ruin really early, but it seems to be working out really well for him, right? Bastet, of course, has fairly standard jungle build here. Right now, it's really just... I'm really at this point checking to see who's building what. Pele does have an early Heartseeker, which is really interesting. And Scylla, of course, built a really early Chronos Pendant, but that's what I'm really looking at here. There's nothing particularly startling here, I would say. Kill Pele really quick, grab Stitch Beacon. If only I could jump over this. And at this particular point, I am looking at Pyromancer. I do want to look to take that. All they've got is Izanami and the two frontliners. So we stand a pretty good chance without Scylla there, but she's about to respawn, so it becomes a bit riskier. But I'm willing to try for it anyways, because their lanes are all under pretty high pressure. But I need people, right? I'm not going to take it by myself. I'm very specifically, at this point, just waiting for the group to... get into a position. Ravon's coming back, so that's a good sign. Freya's right there. She pings it. So once I'm done with this, I'm going to go help her out, and off I go, right? Now, it was a bit risky for her to start that by herself. She does have the lifesteal, obviously. Ravon shows up to help her out. Game spazzes out, doesn't like my jump for some reason, which was really interesting. But that works out pretty well, but it was a bit riskier because we weren't grouped up, which is what I was waiting for originally. So I'm just sticking with Zeus because right now he's the most immobile person. Yeah, Freya is also pretty immobile, but she can at least avoid some damage and stall for me with her ult. Zeus does not have that option. So I'm trying to just stick relatively close to Zeus here. I get a little bit distracted. I'm looking at the wave here. He's heading over to right, which as far as I know just has Izanami in it. There's Kumbhakarna in the jungle. They're warding in right. I'm just looking for golden experience at this point to stay ahead of Kumbhakarna. I don't see any enemies other than Kumbhakarna, so I get a little worried, so I move to meet up with Zeus. And just keep an eye on him at this point. Again, I'm just looking to be hanging around Zeus at this point in time. I don't know where a lot of the enemy is. There's Scylla. Kumbha just backed. There's Pele. Ravon is going in on Pele. So I go in here too because he has initiated. He clearly used his ult. The enemy team is fairly split up here. And there's Izanami, prepping to get slapped. I see in the minimap, though, that Zeus is getting attacked right there, so once I confirm that they get Izanami just fine, I move to try to save Zeus. I unfortunately missed the Pele, which would have been huge, because I'm pretty sure, yeah, the Pele was 100% responsible for his death. The Kumbhakarna did some great setup, though. So I tried to at least distract the Pele, but they're going after people in left, so I'm just trying to keep her out of the fight now. She backs up. I go to the left to join my team here. Alright. And I just want to attack right now because I know the enemy is split up. You can see Surtur is way in left, so it's just these two. Pele just backed up and right, so I knew she wasn't around. Great kill on Scylla there. Easy take of the tower. Right. Go ahead and activate my relic to make sure this happens. And there's Pele and Kumbhakarna. Now, we probably should be leaving at this point in time because they're coming back fresh, or at least the ones that died are. We're really overstaying this. I jump in to try to save Bastet. Turns out she didn't need it. She had her return jump back. But, you know, this is where I just get absolutely blasted by Izanami. As I should. I should not have been there. There was no need for me to be there, right? So I grab, of course, the stone there. Ravon unfortunately doesn't body block the shots early enough. They get wiped out. Zeus had disengaged to go deal with Surtur, which wasn't a bad decision. Probably was the smartest decision of the 5 of us because we did overstay that. We should have left after taking that tower. We had no reason to expect the Phoenix, again, considering that the people we had just killed were coming back fresh and full. So, yeah, we way overstayed that one. That was a terrible decision on our part as a team collectively, except for Zeus, the only one smart enough to leave the area. So, at this point, you know, I'm just looking to meet up with Bastet because Zeus got picked off by Pele, which, after he killed Surtur, he should have backed off. Wandering around the jungle was pure greed. Which, given that he wasn't level 20 yet, and probably was trying to get to level 20, I can understand. It's understandable greed, but it was greed. That was a greed move. Since he was looking for the camps halfway up. So at this point, I'm just trying to look, you know, helpless for Bastet. Here's Kumbhakarna, does a great job trying to save Scylla. Mostly works. But now he's in danger, and at this point, if I'd hit that, we probably would have killed him. Unfortunately, I missed it. I was just out of range. So, Freya warns us that someone's coming at us, which is fine with me. I would love to get a pick here. I think that would be great. Unfortunately, it looks like she bailed out. The Izanami, I mean, who I assume is who she was talking about. So we're just going to work on the Gold Fury. Now, I actually don't expect us to fully take this. My team surprises me by doing significantly more damage than I was expecting. I was expecting Surtur to ult in and try to interrupt this, but there was no moves on that. Freya is clearly online at this point because she's absolutely blasting huge amounts of damage out. Here comes the last Stygian Beacon. Enemy gets the Pyromancer. They initiate on Ravon. So I want to come in here and see what we can do. See if we can turn this around. Miss my stun, which is unfortunate because that would have really helped kill him, but we do get him, right? And then, of course, we have Bastet getting pressured by Pele. Now, I do something interesting here. I body block between Pele and Bastet, which protects Bastet from the direct melee attacks, but doesn't protect her from the lightning. But it's good enough to keep her alive long enough for her to kill the Pele, but it's not very often I get to body block melee attacks like that. That was a lot of fun for me as a support. I go in on this because I just want to try to buy my team the time they need to take that tower, but then I just basically walk into the Izanami shots because, of course, she was invisible at the time. She absolutely blasts me again. Again, as a hunter, she should be blasting me. But they do get to start working on the tower. You can see Zeus basically running interference there, but without minions, it's just not going to happen. Or without me, at the very least. Me or minions. They didn't have minions. I had just died. It just wasn't going to go, right? So, they back, which is the correct decision. Zeus stays up, though, and Zeus stays up too long. He really should have left a while ago. He was, again, he's pulling a greed move here. You can see him clearing out their jungle. He dropped their yellow. He's dropping their red. Now, it works out for him in this case, but that was a greed move, and it was risky, right? Now, at this point, I'm going for Shogun's Kusari. Again, a lot of my allies benefit from higher attack speed, and also, again, I know for a fact that I'm going to want higher than average magic protection between Scylla and Surtur. It's just going to be very important. Now, the enemy team dives pretty deep for Freya here. They do take her out, but it puts Scylla in a really bad position. I go in on this because I know my ult is coming up really soon. There's Scylla's ult, so that's fine. I know once I transform, I can hold this for about the entire duration of my transformation. Here's Pele. I just go ahead and transform, lock down the Scylla, and just try to get her killed. Boom, there she goes. Great. And that's the majority of the enemy team, and we get the Stygian Beacon, which is great, which means we're going to have a really great opportunity pretty soon to try to push a Titan down and get something, right? So, Ravon is attacking the Fire Giant, which is a bit of a bold move, but fairly understandable. Izanami doesn't exactly have a lot of options for stealing the Fire Giant, and we also have Zeus, although he doesn't have his ult. He does hit pretty hard, and of course he's got the shield if he needs the extra, damage output there. He can use that as a deterrent. And here's Izanami, actually, so Ravon and I go to intercept. Right, I get a nice stun on her, I untransform at the worst possible time, as, my luck. I throw a complete whiff of a hammer, and then I'm just making sure that she's not going to come in here and steal this well. Zeus cleans this up, he gets it. Absolutely fantastic. Ravon pulls back a little bit because he's obviously taking a lot of damage from Izanami. Again, not really a surprise, it's pretty standard. Grab the Shogun's Kusari, start upgrading my relics here. And at this particular point in time, we're in a really great position, right? If we can push down this Titan, we're in a great position to take that middle Phoenix and maybe even push to the end. Maybe. We're pretty ahead at this point, so an opportunity does exist, right? Surtur goes way up. I'm trying to lock him down. He ults out, which is fair enough. And, at this particular point, I'm just trying to run, be a barrier, so to speak. I see Zeus coming in from this side here, which concerns me a little bit. He's got no business being separate from us. This is a risk. He winds up getting found by Pele. I go in trying to create an opportunity or a distraction or something. Pele finds him in the jungle there. And while I'm trying to push down this Phoenix, if you watch Zeus in the minimap, he gets slapped to death by Pele really quick. Right there. Now, I abandoned the Phoenix because right now, if we can take out Pele and force the enemy over here, we can actually get something out of this, right? Zeus for 2 so far. And at this particular point, I'm just trying to get Kumbhakarna killed because he's going to be the one slowing down our damage from taking the Phoenix. But Zeus calls retreat because it turns out that we can't really kill any more of the enemy there. I don't know if some of my allies thought that the tower wasn't there. I obviously get picked off here because there's no way I escape out of this. And she goes in. Now this is a great move by the Izanami. She goes invisible and hits me with the next auto attack. That was a really good move by her. But I think that somebody on our team, I think it might have been Freya, I'm not sure, thought that the right tower had been taken. We really should have grouped up and stuck with the Titan. Zeus going into the jungle by himself there and getting killed by Pele was a huge setback for that assault. We did take the middle Phoenix, but we also all died as a result of that, indirectly. So, pros and cons. At the very least, we did accomplish our minimum goal there, which was taking the middle Phoenix. So that is good, but yeah, again, that could have been a lot smoother if we'd been grouped up originally. Zeus, by the way, does not do that. Again, if I'm alive, he sticks a bit closer to me, I think as a result of that. Grab the Corrupted Blink. And Freya calls attacking the Gold Fury, which isn't a bad choice. It is risky, though, because they're all clearly right there. She at least does the correct thing and grabs the Oracles first. So I'm coming in just in case. Now, they start it. I'm kind of assuming that they're going to get attacked. Is just my assumption there. But they take it out really quick. I mean, again, between Zeus, Freya, and Bastet, that's a lot of damage output. So they do take that before the enemy even knows, I think. And Ravon calls for attacking the Fire Giant, but I check and it's not. They're both down still. Freya calls attacking right lane. Now, that's fine. This is actually a good call because the fire mains are going down the middle, so somebody's going to be down in the middle. They just took out Pele, so we have a numbers advantage by at least 1, probably 2. Right, there's Scylla. She warded me. I walked over the ward. Fair enough. And what I'm waiting for right now is I want Ravon to come over. You can see him coming over. But we have a cat running distraction. I go on ahead and start tanking the tower, right? And then, of course, I'm just trying to make sure that Bastet doesn't die, but she's very low on health. I see the Izanami there. Great ult by Izanami, by the way. Zeus is getting picked off by individuals again, but that's okay as long as we at least take the tower, which Freya does need to work on. But she's a little afraid. Again, understandably. I wind up almost dying for that, but then Ravon goes in, so I'm like, okay, do I need to save Ravon? Freya calls a retreat, but I'm, again, watching Freya here. She's taking some risks. She is trying to heal up off the wave, but here's Surtur, which is a problem, so I want to run distraction on Scylla, very specifically. Alright, I just want to make sure that Scylla doesn't participate. I kill Scylla. Now I just wanted to distract Kumba. Surtur coming in and Pele coming in is what I die to. I wasn't expecting Surtur to turn around and try to save Kumbhakarna. I thought he was going to stick with the damage, trying to kill our damage, but he turns around and helps finish me off. So that is a bit of a surprise there. Freya runs, which is the correct move. There was no way she was going to be able to do anything with that. That was just not going to happen. And I warn her right here that Pele is in the jungle. You can see where Surtur almost stunned her right there. So that was quite the risky back, but you can see where Pele is fighting Bastet there in the middle, and Zeus comes in to try to salvage the situation. We also have Surtur clearly ulting, right? So Bastet dies, but Freya is able to take out Pele, so it's a fair trade there. At this particular point, I'm pretty sure, though, that Bastet is worth more than a Pele, so not quite a fair trade, but also at this point, everyone's level 20 anyways with full build, so it doesn't really make a huge difference in terms of golden experience. That's not really that important at this point in time anymore. So I'm just, weakening down this wave here, make sure our wave doesn't get pushed too close to Phoenix there. Meet up with Freya because, again, she doesn't really have a real escape. Her ult might qualify if you consider that an escape. I don't. It's a it's an attack Aegis, basically. And, just keep an eye on Freya, because right now she's going to be a priority target. She has no escape. She does really high damage, so she's going to be a priority target. So I'm just, sticking around with her. I was going to drop that buff for Freya, but unfortunately it wasn't up. And Freya calls attacking left lane, which is probably because the minion wave in left lane is slightly farther up than the minion wave in right. That's my guess. Here, Ravon starts the Pyromancer, which again isn't a bad decision. A bit risky considering they're all alive, and here comes Kumbhakarna, but he's going to be a hair too late. Surtur blinks in, so this is actually a great opportunity because he blinked in to try to steal the Pyromancer, so his team isn't really ready for this, right? He ults back here, so I decide to stop and save Zeus really quick, make sure he doesn't get Zeus. Here's Izanami. We need to kill her. She's a huge thorn in my side. And there's Bastet almost getting her. I blink. I jump. I whiff my whole kit, basically. And Bastet dies to Pele in the background. But at this particular point, what I'm trying to do is just help Freya out at this point. I can see Scylla, getting stopped back on. Clearly Freya did too because she ulted to finish her off. I'm going in on this. I've used the increased attack speed, so we should be able to take this. I stop the Pele as best I can. Unfortunately, she still kills Freya, and we are unable to take the Phoenix. We just need to back up here at this point. I'm only sticking around because I want to make sure Zeus gets out. Zeus runs away into the jungle, which is correct. Ravon is still kicking around there as well. He rejoins us. There's Izanami. She's getting really aggressive with this. Great move by Zeus, almost kills her. I think about going after her to try to finish her off, but when Kumba shows up, you can see I just back off, because there's no way with Kumbhakarna there I'm going to succeed at that, right? That's just not going to happen. So, go ahead and back at this particular point in time. Zeus stays up there still. I'm pretty sure what he's looking for is to heal off of something with a... I think he's got lifesteal, at least some lifesteal. So I think that's what he's going for here. No, because he doesn't heal anything there. He's just greedy. He goes for his damage buff, which is a bit more understandable. At this particular point in time, I assume they're on the Gold Fury, and lo and behold, they're not. But I'm suspicious, because nothing's going on, and lo and behold, here is Izanami. Right, so I'm prepping to try to steal this, or at least scare her off. I decided to scare her off because I'm not sure I have the ability to steal as Fafnir. I should have actually waited till my ult was up at the very least. That would have been significantly more effective. I attack for some reason. I don't know what I was thinking here, to be honest. I should not be here. I should not be here. There is no reason for me to be here. I whiffed that stun, which I really needed to hit. And Pele just starts tearing through me. Right? I mean, Bastet does pick up Izanami in the background, but I die here because I attacked when I had no business attacking. My allies were not nearby. I had already gotten them off of the Gold Furies. There was no point. That was a terrible decision on my part. I'm trying to warn them, by the way, the Pele coming in from behind. I had no business being there, alright? That was a huge mistake on my part. I died for nothing, functionally. Okay, I want you to understand that that was stupid, alright? I did a stupid thing. And this is part of the reason why the team gets slapped so hard here, right? The enemy team is able to make a bit of a turnaround on that fight. It's because they had their front line for at least a little while, and I was dead because I did something stupid. Right, there is direct consequences for my poor decision there. Okay? But it kind of ties up here because they don't really do much else. Freya gets attacked by Scylla, but Scylla backs off, Freya backs off, everyone backs off. Surtur blinks in behind and kills her though, because Ravon went in and Freya went in with Ravon. So now we're down, right? Now we have a problem. Now it's a 3v4. And Ravon's almost dead. You can see where Surtur comes in with his ult and he's trying to kill Ravon. He fails, but he tried. Zeus just really quickly slaps Scylla into next week, and now I'm here to just save him just from Surtur at this point. Right? He gets attacked by Pele. I can hear Pele behind. Ravon was there to save Zeus, though. I see Izanami. She's my next target here. I almost accidentally body blocked the Zeus, which would have been absolutely terrible, but he does take her out, which is hugely important. And at this particular point, I just want to take out this, but they come in with me, so you know what? We just took out the enemy's team's damage. All they have is their front line, so we stand an extremely good chance of taking this. We already know Surtur's ult is down, and Kumbhakarna can't ult the Fire Giant. Fire Giant can't be ulted by Kumbha's ult. So this is a great time to try the Fire Giant. Here is Kumbhakarna. He is going to try to steal it. He's not going to succeed because he only has a couple of options. Now he's going to try to ult. I assume he's trying to ult Zeus. He misses the Zeus, but winds up killing him anyways. At this particular point, I just want to make sure he dies as well. And boom. Again, just for reference, Kumbha versus Fafnir in a support matchup is terrible for Kumbhakarna, which is why the Kumbhakarna has been having such a hard time this match. It's a really bad combo for Kumbhakarna. Right, so at this point, I want this tower, so I'm just going to go in. I'm just going to go in there, and I'm just going to take this thing. Right? So we just take that, and Bastet goes on to Scylla. I'm trying to set up, I'm trying to get something here. Pele goes in. I get my stun, but she Aegis out of it, but we wind up picking her up. Now I'm just trying to make sure that the Pele dies here. I hear Izanami, so I turn around to deal with that. Right? Unfortunately, Ravon dies. I miss that stun, and I fight Izanami here, hoping to take her out. She gets away. If I'd hit that stun, I probably would have killed her. And at this point, I'm doomed. I already know I'm dead here. I can't get away from Pele. She's faster than me. I don't have my ult, which would be my only real shot at this. So I just fight, because there's no way I'm getting out anyways. Right? Stall him out as long as possible. Because guaranteed I wasn't escaping. There was just no way I was going to be able to get out of that situation. So I grab my defense up potion, and at this particular point, it's looking risky. It's looking risky. Right, they've made a really good recovery. We're still ahead, do not misunderstand me, but they have done a really nice recovery. Okay? So, Definitely concerning. You can see Izanami there. Zeus is just hanging around. I think he's just really concerned about Pele. He gets some, you know, poke down on Izanami. You know, protects the Phoenix, which is fine. And they're probably, what they should be doing, and I'm not sure they are, they should be going for the Gold Fury. Bastet finds Pele there. Pele kills Bastet, but Pele is, interestingly enough, at our speed camp, not at Gold Fury, not at Fire Giants. They're not, I'm sorry, not at Fire Giant, not at Pyromancers. They're not going for the jungle objectives. They're not. So even though they had such a great victory, they did nothing with it. They could at least have taken Pyromancer, which would have set them up for a great siege later on if they could continue to turn things around. So, you know, our team steals the Gold Fury. I don't know who stole the Fury, but that was genius, right? We grab Kumbhakarna really quick, which is huge because that cuts down on their front line, right? So I want to attack right lane because we have Freya and we have Zeus, so we're pretty much almost guaranteed to get the this tower here. I can just go in and tank this. Pele's in the left, which is great. Enhance Zeus. Go in on Izanami here. Throw the world's latest hammer. And again, I'm just looking to press this. We have pretty much everyone here except Bastet, obviously, but Bastet's going to come up pretty soon. Surtur comes out, so I just lock him down. I'm doing some damage here with my Manticore spikes. Now I'm just trying to see what opportunities arise here, because that's what I really want to see. Here's Pele, which I know she's looking for Zeus. Zeus comes in behind her, so she was just a little bit early to the party. Kill Pele, which is huge. Kill Izanami, which is even better. And then there goes Scylla. We just won. Alright. I activate my belt pretty soon. It's either, I think it's right after the Phoenix. And when I, oh. No, I sit on it for too long. Shame on me. But we kill Surtur, and now all that's left is, of course, Kumbhakarna, who's just stalling. But at this particular point in time, oh, there's my belt. At this particular point in time, he does kill Zeus, which is great on him. But we have enough minions, and we have enough damage here, and here comes Bastet as well. So Bastet's going to clean this up, period. Right? Here she comes. Boom. Slaps all of that down. And yeah, I died. It would have been nice if I hadn't died right at the end there, but it was a really great match. Right? You can see I have great protections for both protections. Everyone was there. We coordinated pretty well, except for my incredibly stupid decision to attack in the jungle that one time. I played pretty intelligently, except for that one hugely stupid thing. Which we would have won earlier if I hadn't done that, by the way. Probably the previous, you know, the next fight that we'd had after, well, the fight prior to the final fight probably would have gone better. But let's talk about builds, because this is going to be pretty short, because the builds here are pretty standard form. There's nothing really huge to talk about, other than the fact that Zeus massively overcapped on penetration, because Rod of Tahuti gives 10%. I don't know if this still does, but Charon's Coin and Obsidian Shard, they might have nerfed down to 10%. If they did, he didn't overcap. If they didn't, he did overcap. I can't quite remember, but he might have overcapped on his penetration. It depends on if this is 10 or 20%, and if the Staff of Mirrodin still has penetration. I can't quite remember, because I don't like the Staff of Mirrodin personally. It's not my style. But I know other people like it. It is a good item. Don't misunderstand me. It's a great item. It's just not my style. I do kind of find this Egg of the Jungle to be a bit of an interesting decision for Bastet, because her abilities are significantly stronger than her auto attacks. So I always personally prefer Boomba's Dagger on her, because upgrading that to Boomba's Spear gives her 10% cooldowns, which you can see she really didn't need. She had Soul Eater, she had Jotun's Wrath, so she wouldn't have really needed that, but it would have been another 10% penetration at the very least, so that would have been really nice. Ravon, great build here. The Archdruid's Fury here, which gives him a auto attack with true damage based on, you know, he gets a stack of that every 5% of his max health he loses, which is really nice on Ravon, because it's a really nice, it combos really well with his passive. Great build on the Ravon here. Bold choice with the Brawler's Beatstick here, considering that out of the enemy, well, Izanami has Devourer's Gauntlets, so that's kind of understandable. Surtur heals himself through his Fire Rocks, and Pele, of course, has her passive, plus the Soul Eater, so I can understand where he's coming from with this, sure. I probably personally would have gone for Pestilence, again, reflecting the fact that Scylla has Crush, which is punching through 25% of your magic protections, and Surtur does magic damage with his first ability, so I personally would have used Pesty here, but don't misunderstand me, Brawler's Beatstick is a strong choice here. It's just a difference in preference. I'm a more defensive player, again, support main, so that's why I would go for that personally. Freya has pretty standard form here, nothing unusual there, just everything she needs, absolutely fantastic. Izanami, pretty good build, pretty standard stuff. The Golden Arrow, I am somewhat... Now, she built this because it gives you a lot of attack speed, and that combos really well with Silver Branch Bow, but she could have run Death's Toll increased up to Death's Temper and run Dominance instead of Silver Branch and been just as well off. She would have had less attack speed by a little bit, obviously, because Dominance doesn't increase attack speed quite as much as Silver Branch, nor does Death's Temper increase quite as much as the Arrow here. There's a little bit of an attack speed drop, but... And I also am aware of the fact that she built Silver Branch because if you build Silver Branch on Izanami and you're stacking so much attack speed, and you use her attack speed buff, instead of buffing her attack speed if you're already at 2.5, it just buffs your damage, which is just incredibly beneficial, right? Instead of, that attack speed buff, especially since they've recently buffed Silver Branch. So I can understand why she went for this. I typically also build Silver Branch on Izanami, but instead of Executioner, I typically run Dominance just to get that percentage penetration. Helps me take towers a lot of the time. The only time I really build Executioner on Izanami is really specifically in Arena. Again, that's personal preference. Both work, but for tower taking, I prefer Dominance. I find it much more effective. So we have that. Surtur's build... I do find the early Brawler's Beatstick really interesting, although I don't think this is what he started out with. I think he might have. I can't really tell. He did sell his starter item to grab Heartseeker for more damage, which is interesting. Personally, my only real criticism of Surtur, and I think this was part of the problem with their team, is he really doesn't have that much defense here. And what defense he does properly prioritize magic protections, given Freya and Zeus. That was going to be very important, but besides Oni Hunter's Garb, his only other form of protection is Spirit Robe. So I would personally say that, in my opinion, he doesn't have enough protections. Personally, if I were him, I would have dropped Brawler's Beatstick for Contagion. I think he wasn't lasting long enough in fights, which left the bulk of the frontlining to Kumbhakarna, which in this matchup was probably not the best decision. Again, Kumbhakarna was a bad matchup against Fafnir. Now, he wouldn't have known that I was Fafnir, nor did I know he was Kumbhakarna, obviously, but Kumbhakarna versus Fafnir is a really bad matchup, because either Fafnir can kill him by himself in dragon form. Again, you could see, right after we took that Fire Giant, after Kumbhakarna killed Zeus, I blasted through him. I blasted through his passive. And even if I'm not in dragon form, all I have to do is slap Coerce on an ally, and they're going to do the same thing. Furthermore, I can... And you could see it a couple of times throughout the match where I stunned him right before his sleep activated, which totally threw off what his plans were. I can also stun him out of his root before that activates as well. It's just a really unfortunate matchup. So while Surtur's build might have worked better in a different support matchup, given the matchup, also given that Zeus, again, poses a decent attack speed threat, he can throw his shield out there to temporarily enhance his attack speed, which in turn helps him clear Kumbhakarna's passive faster. I think Surtur's decision to build heavier on the damage did hurt his team at large. This isn't reflected in Surtur's score. You might look at Surtur's 7, 8, 12 and say, well, Professor, it seemed to work out really well for him, but that's not about him. Surtur's decision to go heavier on the damage meant that with Kumba tanking the bulk of the damage, Scylla was left in the dust. Now, Scylla had a rough start right off the top, obviously. She was the first one to die on the enemy team. She had a pretty consistently rough time. Bastet picked her off quite a lot. Zeus picked her off quite a lot. But in the team fights, she probably would have done a little bit better if Surtur had been tankier. And you can see, actually, I think the greatest example of how easy it was to kill Surtur happened in that fight right after we took the Pyromancer and Surtur blinked in to try to steal it and was a second too late. He ults, he comes back down, and he gets blasted, right? He gets absolutely decimated. And a big part of that is because he really didn't have that much in the way of protections. That's a huge reason why he got blasted so quickly. And that was just the best example of him dying very quickly in team fights, but by no means in that match was it the only one. He was killed fairly quickly, right? Because again, it's not necessarily the job of the solo laner to build damage. Now, it is the job of the solo laner to fill in for whoever's really falling down. And in this particular instance, clearly both Kumbhakarna and Scylla were having a problem. What happened here was Surtur didn't see the matchup problem. I'm guessing because Surtur probably doesn't play either Fafnir or Kumbhakarna, is my guess. Surtur just doesn't know that that's a really bad matchup for Kumbhakarna and chose to try to fill in for Scylla with damage. I understand why Surtur built more damage than protections. He was trying to cover for Scylla. The problem is that given the situation, that wasn't the correct choice. And that's just because Surtur, or Mad Marksman, the player, just doesn't understand the severe misfortune of a Kumbhakarna Fafnir matchup. And that's just a matter of playing the game and figuring out matchups and stuff. That's not a flaw of the Surtur. It's just something he didn't know. So not really a criticism, but it was absolutely a factor in this match. And again, if you go back and see the team fights, especially the team fights in the second half of the game, you're going to see that happen. Okay, you're going to see the Scylla get picked off because Kumbhakarna is taking the bulk of the front lining, which means he can't be in the background saving Scylla from Bastet, from Zeus. Nobody's there to save her. It doesn't help that Scylla was fairly aggressive, despite being behind, but as a mage, you kind of need to play that way to get your damage out there before you die, right? It's a very winner-takes-all type of scenario there. That would be about all I would say. Outside of Pele picking up the egg of the jungle, I really don't have any issues with these builds. Again, the Surtur's build being heavy on the damage was a decision, not necessarily in a vacuum, it wasn't a bad decision, but in context, it was a very unfortunate decision, is basically what that is. And I'll have to double check and see if Zeus overcapped on that build. I'll put it in the description if Zeus overcapped on that, because I can't quite remember. I'm pretty sure he's overcapping by at least 10%. Alright, but that's, again, I say that with decent confidence. I haven't used Staff of Mirrodin in a hot minute, so I don't know if that has pen, and they're constantly playing with Obsidian Shard at this point. But with that being said, thank you all very much for joining me. This was Fafnir in the support role. Other than that one incredibly stupid attack I did in the jungle, that's a pretty good look at what you want to be doing and trying to prioritize as Fafnir. And one final note before I end this episode is you really have to be kind of aware of when you're going to untransform. There is a timer at the bottom, but if you play Fafnir enough, you will just get this instinctive feeling about it. He also flashes, but the flash isn't as pronounced as it used to be. But just keep an eye out for that as well. But with that being said, thank you very much for joining me. If you like this, please like and subscribe. If you didn't, please ignore me. And if you have any questions, concerns, comments, suggestions, please leave them down in the comment section below. And have a great 24 hours.